So this is stinging nettle, and you just pick the tops like that. Yeah, and of course when you pick the top, then the side shoots start to grow. So then you can wait until they've grown, and then you can harvest those. And you remember the old adage, grasp the nettle? That's exactly what I'm doing there. Yeah, you grasp it and it's fine. It's if you brush your hand against them that they will sting. So just wash them off. Okay, and then they can go straight in the teapot. And I normally use 4 tops like that. Add the boiling water, and after about 5 minutes the tea will be bright green, but I prefer to leave it so it's dark green. And then you can, every time you want a cup of tea, you can pour some of that mixture out of the teapot and then add boiling water in the cup, yeah, to sort of dilute it. That way a pot like this will last you most of the day, and it's very good for you, very good for cleaning the system, as it were, and removing uric acid from the joints, etc., etc., cleaning out all the bloods. I find it very beneficial. And tea itself, the standard, what you would call Indian tea or Ceylon tea, as you get older there tends to be a bit of a reaction in the body against it, against the tannins and whatnot, and it's very bad for the joints. You get a reaction, and almost like rheumatism. So I've stopped drinking tea. My shoulders used to be really stiff even with exercise, and I stopped drinking tea, and within sort of 2 weeks all that stiffness had gone. So, you know, that's just something to bear in mind. There we go. We'll let that sit for a while. So it's raining, which is good for the garden. The bees are still about. Anyway, what I wanted to show you today is, apart from again the height of the tomatoes and the flowers are coming on, we have, this is all about succession, and not in the royal way. We've got some lettuce there, and we've started cutting them slightly early. And if we come round, there's lettuce there, smaller, and past the carrot there's lettuce there, which is an intermediate size, and they'll want weeding at some point. Past the alders, which are now nearly 6 inches high, and we're coming through here, and here's the next lot of lettuce. Sowed that about a week ago, which was probably a bit late. It should have been sown the week before that, but it's bombing on. And coming past here, a neighbour has just donated some Brussels sprout plants. So what we get a problem with cabbage white butterflies around here. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to make a little cage with a net, a fine-ish net, so that then we can put the Brussels sprouts and these purple sprouting in that to keep those caterpillars and butterflies away. As you can see, something's already started to chomp these. I'll have to pick them out and find out whether there's any caterpillars on there. But a cage about 2 foot high and about 3 foot square goes right down to the concrete with a little sort of roll up flap. Then we can get in there to water them, and we can keep the plants in pots until the fear of the dreaded cabbage white have disappeared. So here you go. That's darkening up, and then a bit of hot water in there, and over the few hours that will darken up even more. Once it's been in the pot for a few hours, the taste matures and it's a rounder flavour, and I quite like it. And as I've said, yeah, it's good for the body. Now then, around about 1990, the building industry was going through quite a boom at the time, and I remember just being flat out all the time, being in the workshop feeling quite tired, and coming in and having a strong cup of tea, and then going out again and cracking on with the work, and then sort of half an hour later running out of energy. And it's only in retrospect did I realise that I was actually just running on tea, and that's no good for the body whatsoever. So as you get a bit older, as I've said, tea affects you even more, and it's an autoimmune response. Yeah, so knocking the tea on the head makes a huge difference. And my friend Mac told me about this about 10 years ago, and I'll just put a link up to Mac's videos. He's an artist and we have great fun. Anyway, so there you go, nettle tea. And of course, in the past, nettles were used as a green vegetable, and you can still do that. You pick the nettle leaves, boil them up, and it's a bit like spinach. This latch here, Suffolk latch, is just starting to give us a few problems. It's quite worn. It was originally on the house when we bought it, and we've reused it, and the back plate finally rotted out. So I'm assuming that the original parts of this are maybe 140 years old. Anyway, I'm going to do a separate video on finding out what's wrong with that and fixing it, so that this home life is not a very long video. And we're just collecting the double glazing units. Here they are. Made in Boston. So these are these cranked stormproof hinges. So the way I'm fitting them is that inner face there is flush with the inner face of the stormproof rebate. Where's the pencil gone? pencil's gone walkabout somewhere. Here it is. And then we'll mark, let's just open that up, we'll mark there, and then we have to chop that out. Now we only want to go the thickness of one of these leaves, because that side is chopped into the frame, so that then effectively the frame will be there. Right, so let's just crack on with that. I'm using a very small lightweight hammer. Wrong one. And this chisel is as sharp as some early 19th century prose, satirical prose at that, rolled up into a point, dipped in vinegar and poked in your eye. And that's a quote. Anybody who can pick that one up. So we're getting there. And the depth is an educated guess. I've had some quite disturbing comments really recently on some of my videos. Just that it seems like obviously all other YouTube providers get this, but it's a sad state of affairs. There, that's flush. That's good. When people's only reason for existing is just to spread annoyance. Sad, isn't it? I just report them as abuse. There's no point replying to them. It just feeds their aggression. Right, so that's nice and flush. I'm quite pleased with that. Little bit of a gap there, but that'll be fine. As long as we push that way as far as we can. drill a couple of fine pilot holes for the screws so that it just pushes that way a bit. Right, let's crack on. Just before I pick these, here we are, raspberries, and they are doing very well. And we don't prune these raspberries or anything that very much. All we do is once a year take the dead canes out, which are the ones that are 3 years old. Otherwise they're in the corner of the veg plot and they tend to spread, so when they get a bit too much we dig some of it out and plant them somewhere else. Hassle free virtually, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So these batteries have been left for several weeks to see whether they will self-discharge. Okay, so now I'm going to check them with the hydrometer, and that's a good one. And I shall go round them all, and that's a good one. And I've got my plastic apron on for obvious reasons. And I've removed the terminals of these because I'm about to move them. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's fine. Yeah, we ought to drop test them really. Here we go. Stick the spikes straight down in the bottom of the holes so you get a really good connection, and you can probably see this smoking now, but that's a good 1.5 volts at 200 amps. So as you can see, those Brussels sprout plants since the start of this video have grown somewhat. So I'd done a bit of a video showing the repotting of these and then realised that I was repeating myself. So I've spliced this bit of video in there and then we'll continue. But look, they're doing really well. And as you remember, hopefully you remember, brassicas are one of those plants where it doesn't matter if you plant them a bit deeper. Yeah, they'll re-root round that. So there you go. And of course these pots I shall return, and that reminds me of a few years ago I gave some tomato plants to someone saying return the pots, and when I saw them later on I went, have you got those pots? She said, oh, I burnt them. I just thought, that's a total lack of respect. And it's not what you call low impact, which of course some people don't understand. But basically it's tread lightly on this earth. And it's the choices you make and the things that you do and the things that you don't do that make a difference. I mean, Greta Thunberg, she's got it right in a lot of ways, in so much as, you know, the older generations have taken all the benefits as they see it, yeah, and left nothing for the next generation. Yeah, we've got habitat destruction and climate change, and yeah, there comes a point when the biome or the world won't support us anymore. And then you've got these people saying, oh, let's go to Mars. Why don't you fix the world you've got before traipsing off the right, left and centre? Anyway, so these now, as I said, go in the brassica enclosure. Not to keep them in, but to keep other things out. And look what's there. A cabbage white butterfly. Just in time. Okay. So if we look here, where are we? There we are. The tomatoes are setting and we've got fruits growing, and of course I feed them with the mixture that I made a couple of weeks ago. They'll swell up and we'll be having tomatoes in the next couple of weeks. And next to it is the brassica enclosure. That'll keep things at bay. And the front just opens up so you can get in there and water it and everything. And thanks to Nigel for donating this fine netting. It lets plenty of light through and it's fine enough to keep all the beasties out, which is brilliant, and thank you for that. And just in front here we have the cucumber, and we're just starting to get a couple of cucumbers on there, just small ones, and we can maybe zoom in just there. You can just see the end of it just down there. It won't be long before we got cucumbers. Here's the runner beans. Hopefully you can see those red flowers. I know some people can't see red very well. So anyway, for those who can, there you go. They're cracking on. Won't be long before we've got some beans. And just down here are the leeks, and they're really going well. I dug a lot of compost into this plot and some horse manure very early in the year, and then when we had that real dry spell I made sure that these lines got a bit of water at regular intervals. And as you can see, and I can't see that well because the sun is in the video camera screen, but they are a good 3/4 of an inch in diameter, the majority of them. So if we wanted to, we could start eating these now. There we go. And at the end of these two rows, if I can see, yeah, there we are, we've got another few more. It was a bit of a later sowing, and so they got planted out last week. That area became available. Can't remember what was there, maybe some purple sprouting, and more compost in there. Dug it over, planted the leeks, planted them deep and watered them in. Anyway, there you go. And of course the bee borage is still behaving itself, still giving plenty of bee food. And talking of bees, we've got that many bumblebees nests now, and it just goes to show that about 2 or 3 years ago the neonicotinoid insecticides were banned in the UK, and the bees have come back. Before that we didn't have very many at all. So industrial agriculture, overproduction, cheap food is at the cost to the environment. So and now there's this whole business about doing trade deals with other countries, and we don't want to lower our standards. They're low enough as it is, but they're lower in other parts of the world. So anyway, just saying how it is.